Hi folks, it's Andy. Welcome to this week's Kendo Rant. Okay, here we are. We've got these fantastic questions. We've got loads of them today. Thank you very much, everybody, to sending them to me. We'll jump in just a second. But before we do, don't forget, like, share, subscribe, you know, all that sort of thing. And most importantly, shop at KendoStar.com, the best equipment website in the whole entire universe. Of course, I would say that as I own the place. But if you look at our Trustpilot rating, we're the best out there. Yeah, so it's a win-win. You get fantastic, the best gear, really. You get a fantastic deal. We get to keep the camera rolling. You get to keep watching these videos. Everybody's happy. All right, let's get to these questions then. Right. First one. Good day, Andy says, I've always been told don't leave the borg under direct sunlight. Can you explain why that is? Would it crack? I've always thought that if I just leave it outside for a few hours, the wind and sun could kill off some bacteria and smell. Thank you. All right, so it is correct that leaving it in the sunlight can help to sort of kill some bacteria, help to stop it smelling. But the risk you run leaving it in direct sunlight is that it will fade the dye, the traditional Izumi dye that's used to colour the Borgate stock navy colour. So that's kind of a sort of prized aspect of the Borgu itself. So it's best to avoid fading that if you possibly can. And that's why I'd avoid leaving it in direct sunlight. You're better off leaving it in the shade, to be honest. Further, it depends on the climate that you live in as well. If you live in a country where there's very extreme differences in humidity, for example, then that could also cause problems to the membuchi. That's the black and red part that fixes the mengane, the cage, to the futon, the padding, because that could expand and contract, and then that could crack. So it's you need to be a little bit sensitive to where you leave it in terms of changes of temperature as well. Okay, right, next one. Hi Andy, I'm looking forward to seeing you at Stoke this weekend. 2 questions this week. When performing simultaneous attacks with an opponent, especially with bigger opponents, I find I often get pushed off centre or my posture fails and I can't land a good strike. How should I address my training to improve this? 2, how can you practice shikakewaza, taiatari, turning on the spot and returning in a controlled manner with zanshin? I included a link below to show what I mean. Masahiro sensei delivers the cut, comes in and turns neatly on his foot before moving backwards with zanshin. I tend to either move through or do taiatari without this level of control. I'm going to pick on you a little bit. I'm looking forward to seeing you at Stoke this weekend as well. Stoke is a place in the UK where there's going to be a seminar by the British Kendo Federation, British Kendo Association, the BKA. It's been a long week, you can probably tell. The British Kendo Association run a seminar this weekend. I'm there as one of the teachers, so it'd be great to see you there if you're going. Now, I'm picking on you, and it's not your fault. This is an issue that we definitely have in the UK. I've heard it a lot, but this misspelling of taiatari, okay, it's not taitari. I know lots of people, especially here in the UK, for some reason, seem to pronounce it as taitari, but it's not taitari. It's taiatari. Is that right? Taiatari. Yeah. Taiatari. Yeah, in Japanese it's let me write it in Japanese. Taiatari. Taiatari. Okay. Oh no, I've typed that in wrong. But anyway, taiatari. There we go. Taiatari. So the body crash. Yeah, ataru. It's from the word ataru. Yeah. So yeah, it was kind of creeping me out in English there. I wasn't sure if I'd spell it right, but I have, yeah. Taiatari. Taiatari. Okay, so there's your spelling lesson for today. So anyway, so first, when you're performing simultaneous attacks with your opponent, and with bigger ones, you find you're often getting pushed off center. Okay, this is probably caused by a couple of things, or one of a couple of things. It's usually caused by your hips not being square to your opponent. So when you're in your kamae, your left and right hip must be sort of pretty much square onto your opponent. And this happens if your left foot is turned out this way, then your hip turns out this way as well. And that's why it's easier for someone, especially if they're bigger and stronger, to overpower you when you strike at the same time. All right, so that's one thing. Secondly, now I've said this before, right? Obviously, when you do your chudan no kamae, yeah, your shoulders aren't parallel to your opponent, but your hips are. All right, your hips are straight on. Your right shoulder is slightly in front, but your hips are straight. Okay, and your right shoulder slightly in front because you're holding the right hand forward. Okay, that's normal. The other thing is timing. Okay, you don't want to hit at the same time if you can help it. Try to if you're finding you're hitting them at the same time a lot, then try to concentrate on when you think they're about to attack and attack just before that. It's quite hard though, right? But no one said it was going to be easy. All right, about this video, let's have a look at it, shall we? Just bear with me. Okay, so we've got the video here. Let's have a look at what you're talking about. So, yeah, Miyazaki Masahiro is. I've done the player spotlight about him. One of the greatest kendoka of all time, 6-time All Japan champion, world champion, 7th dan champion, 8th dan champion. Right, let's have a look. So he's the player on the left. So what you're talking about here is how he, after striking, how he retains zanshin by keeping awareness towards his opponent. So after he strikes here, closes the distance and then immediately turns using his ashisabaki, his footwork, to keep his eyes on his opponent. This is the correct zanshin. Okay, this is the correct zanshin for men's strikes. I've talked about this in my video about zanshin. It's a bit of an old one now, but it's worth looking at that. Essentially, you shouldn't be doing taiatari. To do taiatari, you have to drop your hands. After you hit men, your hands should be staying forward. You keep going this way until you bump into the opponent. But as soon as you bump into them, don't keep pushing. You just have to turn with you have to use your footwork to turn. But if you're bringing your hands down, that's why you're ending up in taiatari. And you shouldn't be trying to run off past men like this, because that's not correct either. That isn't the correct zanshin for a men's strike. That's a practice method. That's kihon. So yeah, there's no way I can just tell you right now, oh, here's how you do it there, and then you're going to be able to go and do it. If I want to see you this weekend, then maybe we can talk about it a little bit. If you come and ask me about it in person, but I'll try and show you a little bit of examples. But yeah, just the only thing I can say is, of course, and it would be the same when I see it in person, is, you know, is just try to practice it, and it's going to be about anything. It's going to be about that sort of repetition, and just keep doing it until it becomes a bit more natural. All right, I'm sure you'll grab it though. Okay, next one. Hello, Fisher Sensei. Once again, thank you for such a great channel. Well, thank you for making it a great channel. I have a couple of questions regarding grading exams. Out of curiosity, is Tsuki acceptable, or have you ever seen it performed at grading? 2, would it be possible for you to provide some sort of table detailing what you think would be the minimum requirements to pass each Dan level? Once again, many thanks. So, number 1, is Tsuki acceptable? Yes, it's acceptable. Of course, it's one of the Kendo waza. The problem you've got is whether it's appropriate, and that the appropriate situation arises in grading or not. It's a lot like many hikiwaza. Essentially, it's not that hikiwaza are wrong or bad, or you shouldn't do them in grading. It's just the opportunity for them doesn't often arise. And the same can be said for Tsuki. So especially at lower grades, you're probably going to get it wrong. So I wouldn't. It's not going to. It doesn't necessarily show anything. Especially at lower grades, like 5th dan and below, definitely. Maybe third dan and below for certain. But even like 4th, 5th dan, I've seen someone do it at 5th dan once and they passed, but they landed proper awesome ski, so that's fine. But I've seen someone do it in Nanadan exam and it was awesome, and of course they sailed through the exam. But those sort of opportunities don't present themselves that much in the sort of fundamental grades. So in like your Shodan, Nidan, Sandan, and not so much in Yondan either, to be honest. I've never seen it or can't really imagine it so much at that level. I'm not saying it wouldn't or couldn't or never would. So, but it would be wrong as well to say, no, you can't do it. Like, because that's nonsense too. That's not... Grading, you don't censor your own Kendo. You're supposed to present your Kendo. So if the correct opportunity is there, then great. But the fact of the matter is, the correct opportunity for ski very seldom arises in a grading situation. All right, it's really good against defensive opponents, and you don't get many defensive opponents in grading exams. In terms of a table detailing what I think would be the minimum requirements to pass each Dan level, I think that's quite a good idea. It already exists. I haven't made it. The International Kendo Federation, the ZNKR, the All Japan Kendo Federation have put it out there. It is out there. But I think what I'll do is I'll make a video as soon as I can. I've still got things going on here. I am in my new sort of studio. Hopefully the audio is better this week. You'll have to let me know in the comments. I've done a bit of work to try and improve that. But I am still working on things here, and there's a lot of work going on. And I'm trying to timetable making this content between the building work that's going on. So as soon as that's calmed down, you'll start to see me putting more videos out, and this is the sort of video that I'd like to do as well, where we can sort of talk about each Dan level. Right, what do you need to do for IQ, and then after that, what about Shodan, Nidan, Sandan, Yondan, Godan, Rokudan, and Nanadan, Hachidan even, and I'm not saying that from experience, obviously. I'm talking about going through a lot, like I did with the video I did about the handbook for the Shiai and Shimpan that isn't actually published. It's only out there online from the ZNKR, something like that. So we've got the official text from the ZNKR, and we'll go through that in a video. I think that'd be cool. Okay, so we'll look at that. Next one, warning, controversial question. I don't do controversial questions on this channel. I don't know if you know that, but we never do controversial questions, ever. We only talk about completely non-controversial topics, like how Kiri Otoshi is the best waza and Iaido is so beneficial to your Kendo. Okay, hello says it's acceptable to re-dye Borgu using indigo dyes used for jeans. Alternatively, will KendoStar sell the Kendo indigo dye? Right. I don't recommend using dye for jeans. Now, someone can go out there and put in the comments, oh, I did it with this or whatever, and it looks great. Sure, maybe it does. Maybe it does. I ain't going to say that that's a good idea, right? We can get the dye. We can get the dye for you. Send me an email, and we'll sort it out for you. We can do it. We can get that. It'll take us a couple of weeks to get over from Japan, but we can get it. It's no problem. Just send me an email, mail@kendostar.com, and either myself or one of my wonderful staff will help you. Next one. I've noticed that Western senseis love to explain and break things down and are very generous with feedback, whereas Japanese senseis say very little each practice and teach students more through osmosis. As a Western sensei who trained in Japan, what is your approach at the dojo? So I think this is a fantastic question. And I think this is, I read an interview with a Kendo sensei, a Western Kendo sensei, who I respect very much. I'm not going to name drop them, but I respect them very much. And they've spent extensive time in Japan too. And they are somebody who I consider someone who I look up to. And they mentioned in this interview that this tends to be because of the way that sort of learning styles happen in different cultures. So Eastern, especially Japanese, well, not especially, but Japanese learning style, especially in relation to Kendo, is sort of like a Confucianist, like from Confucius and stuff, whereas ours is more like Aristotelian. So theirs, it's like figure it out yourself, and ours is ask questions. Now, whether that's true or not, I don't know, but I thought that was a really interesting point that sensei made in that interview. And it seems to make sense to me. Definitely, in my own personal experience, that is definitely a difference in the style. You know, in in the West, you know, you have this sort of system where you're teaching and students are like, sensei can ask a question, this is a question, I've got a question, I've got a question. It doesn't really happen in Japan. You know, that isn't how it works. You get given hints or clues from the sensei, and then you have to figure it out yourself. This is very difficult, and this is one reason I think, this is my own personal hypothesis, why I think that lots of people sometimes struggle when they go to Japan, or that people go to Japan to learn Kendo, and even if they get access to very, very high level Kendo practice, and even if they can speak Japanese reasonably well, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to improve an awful lot, because they're not always going to benefit from the senseis if they don't, not just the senseis, but the environment they're in, if they don't really understand that that's how it works. It took me a couple of years of being there to really figure that out, and I was lucky, I think, in that I was able to, I think, figure that out to some extent, and that really helped. Once I figured that out, I saw my progress really move much quicker. And I think it was when I went from a point where I literally every day I was hardly speaking English, especially in Kendo, where I was almost just completely immersed in Japanese language and culture at some point, where it changed the way, not changed the way I thought, because it's not I think like that, but it made me understand it a bit better, and it definitely helped the way I was able to benefit from doing Kendo in Japan. Now, here in the West, of course, it doesn't work like that, and if you do it like that, it doesn't work. I've experimented with it a bit, and it's not experimented. It's not I did it on purpose when I first moved over here. I think with people who I was particularly trying to help directly on not a one-to-one basis, but on an individual basis, that wasn't communicating itself, and I wasn't realizing that either myself, that okay, they're not really getting it. It wasn't that. I just thought that like these guys can't be bothered or something like that. So I had a lot of learning to do on that front as well, coming back to the West. And I think the thing is, though, is I've always had this sort of point of view, though, since I started doing these YouTube channels at the same time. So on the one hand, like in a personal way, like in the dojo, I've been that way, that sort of Japanese way a bit. But on YouTube, I've always been the opposite way, because I always thought that YouTube would be a great place, or doing, this platform would be a great place for me to be that bridge between sort of the Japanese way and the Western way. And I've always tried to explain that. That's why this show exists, Kendo Rant, right, where I sit here and I literally answer your questions. Now it's just me. I'm not some high level grade, sensei or anything like that. But all I'm trying to do is share my experiences with you. But now I am running a dojo of my own in the UK, and I've got my own students and things like that. I am much more concentrating on making sure that things are explained in detail, and that I'm there to answer questions for them. And there's something else I've said as well, just to wrap this up, is I've always said is I think it's really important if you're going to teach Kendo that you have the answers, right? So there's things I don't know or don't understand yet. Of course there are, right? But as you know, sometimes you find out when you ask me these questions on this show. But in general, I try not to be the sort of Kendo teacher that is going to give you the answer that's just the way it is, or that's what we're supposed to do. If you don't do that, it's not Ippon or something like that. Because I don't believe personally that that's how Kendo works. I believe that the criteria for Yuko Datotsu, valid strikes, exist for a valid reason. And they exist like that for a good reason. And we do our Kendo in order to fit with that for that good reason, rather than because that's the best way to make the strikes in Kendo in order to progress along the journey of self-improvement that Kendo has us on, if that makes sense. Rather than just, say, well, look, if you don't do that, you don't get Ippon, or it's not Ippon. It's like, well, yeah, that's true, but there's a deeper reason behind that, right? It's like, well, why do I have to have, like earlier, why do I have to have my hips square? Well, because all the senseis say so. That's, I think it's important that we have to know and have these reasons why, or be able to answer these questions for these even fundamental questions, right? Why the left hand behind the right, or why can't you hit the left kote, or why can't you do Tsuki to the mune, or why do we have to do suriashi instead of ayuminashi, or whatever, yeah? These are sort of questions that you can't just answer with, I think, as a teacher. I don't think it's responsible to answer them you just do, or because if you don't, it's not Ippon. And I think as a teacher, it's your sort of job to, or your responsibility to kind of find out what those answers are if you don't know what they are already. So yeah, that's my approach. So yeah, next one. Would you recommend cardio gym routines along with normal Kendo practice to improve your Kendo? And if so, what would you recommend? Such as a weightlifting routine, or is it just doing lots of Kendo good enough even if you can't practice every day? Well, one, no, it's not just about doing Kendo all the time. There's lots of things that go into improving Kendo, and doing Keiko is one, but doing loads of Keiko isn't the only thing. I'll tell you something. I'll tell you story time. I was once chatting with I am acquainted with a person who was an All Japan champion high school player, and that person was she was very, very successful player, and I was I knew her mum actually rather than her directly. I knew her as well through her mum. Trained at the same dojo basically, and speaking casually with her mum one day, after she just won this fantastic tournament, the All Japan Championships, high school championships, her mum told us that she told me I was so mad at her because she skipped training all the time. She skipped practice all the time. She didn't go to all the practices, and still she was able to win. Really, it was annoying. And she turned around and she said, yeah, but mum, if it was just about how many practices I went to, then the winner would always be the person that went to the most practices. And I thought that was a really interesting thing. Now, of course, that's not to say you can just skive off practice and expect to get better. She can't. But, it is a fact that you have to train a lot in Kendo in order to improve. But on the other hand, there's a good point there in that, it's not just the number of practices that you go to. You can't just do that. And there's, it's not always the person that goes to the most practice isn't always the person that wins, right? So there's a lot more that goes into it. Now, in terms of cardio gym routines, I don't know. I mean, yeah, I think general cardio is a good thing for your health anyway. And in terms of gym routines, I think you have to be careful not to overtrain one specific area that you think you might need to do a lot of in Kendo. But you do need to concentrate on some areas that you need particular extra strength. I think making sure you've got enough strength in your legs, in your thighs and calves, particularly your calves, things like calf raises and stuff like that will help. And I think wrist curls as well, I like to do with dumbbells, are quite useful. So where you're sort of, I can't really show, but you hold a dumbbell level, not upright like this, but you could do it with a barbell as well, I think, and just curl just your wrists, all right? So you're working your forearm muscles here. Yeah, these are things that you can do. There's other things as well, of course. You can do a lot of these things at home, of course. You don't need to go to a gym. Suburito are pretty good, like the Suburi Bokken are pretty good as well. But you need to be of a certain level before you can benefit from them properly, I think. And otherwise, Mitori Geiko, watching Keiko. Watch YouTube videos of all these fantastic kendo guys out there, and watch videos of your own kendo and compare it. Watch the analysis videos that I put out from time to time, where I'm actually explaining what's going on in these videos and what it is that you need to look at and what it is that's going to help you improve. And try to find some footage of some players on YouTube, maybe some famous players who you can relate to, or you can that have kendo you'd really like to have kendo similar to. Now, look, you have to be realistic at the same time. I think about your own sort of body. There's like, for me, there's no point me like. I'm a massive fan of, let's say, Teramoto Shoji Sensei and Kiwada Daiki Sensei's kendo. I think they're amazing, yeah. But those guys are like over 108 centimeters tall. They're much taller than I am. So it doesn't mean I can't learn from them, because I can, and I do watch them as well. But I can't do a lot to base my kendo around theirs because it's structurally different, yeah. So mine's sort of, I tend to lean more towards people like Takanabe Susumu, for example, who is exactly the same height as me, similar build. Whereas, also maybe like Eiga Naoki Sensei, fantastic, brilliant kendo, one of the most inspirational kendo guy in the world, but he's quite a bit shorter than I am. So it's also a little bit of a different one. It's not a super appropriate one for me to copy either. But if you can find something like that, and then you can fix an image in your mind a little bit of the kind of kendo that you want to do, and then take it with you to the dojo, and then try and emulate it, film yourself, go back and watch it. That's worth 20 visits to the gym every time you do it. I'm telling you now. Right, next one. Had a total knee replacement several years ago and I'm unable to sit in Seiza. Not even close. Wondering what the best way to deal with this is when trying to bow. Standing bow is no problem. Even Sonkyo is not difficult, but sitting in Seiza is impossible. The joint will not bend that much. Any idea on different positions, Anza, etc.? I don't know what Anza is, but I think the best thing you can do is speak to your sensei, your dojo leader, and ask them what they would prefer you to do. They may be happy for you to stand, or they may be happy for you to sit, maybe cross-legged if that's easier for you, or in a different way that's easier for you. I can't really answer this directly for you in this way, but there is going to be a way to accommodate you, so I wouldn't worry. If it was in my dojo, I'd probably just say, how if you can sit down in, let's say, whatever position, then fine. But if not, then stand up. Do the raise standing up. It's not the end of the world. Hi Sensei, here in Brazil, buying another men or new pair of kote is not an option for most practitioners for financial reasons. So we need to clean our bogus very well to practice 3 times a week in a very hot environment. Any advice to do this properly? Thanks. Note the videos teaching to clean bogu with only water and a dry 10 degrees seems not to be enough. To be honest with you, there's not a lot you can do. You can wash it like you can wash it with like the kote. You can put them in a bucket of water, and you can submerge the men futon, but the men futon can go in like into water, but you can't get the memberchi. Yeah, can't get the memberchi wet. Right, you must avoid doing that. Yeah, I mean, otherwise the borg itself 3 times a week, you know, there's not a lot, you know, you can do other than clean it in the ways that I've showed you on the videos. It's not a case of cleaning it, it's a case of getting it dry. Yeah, that's the biggest problem you've got. You're gonna need to make sure, just try and find somewhere nice and dry, you know, it'll definitely last longer. The worst thing you can do is try and you know, use it while it's still wet, and that's definitely gonna do it. And I appreciate that's harder in a you know, in a hotter country. Okay, I just got a text from my wife who sat downstairs saying that Anzai's I got a kakukoto, so he's sitting with cross legs. So there you go. I didn't know it's called Anza. There you go. I don't have all the answers. Thank you. Right, next one. Hi Andy, been doing some homework on Mitsuno Sen and came across this from 608, but came unstuck as it's all in Japanese. Could you have a look? Is it worth doing an analysis of it in English? There's a link. P.S. She and I are working out fine. Good. Okay, let's have a look at this video that you've sent. Okay, so here's the video that you've posted to. Let's have a quick look. I'm not going to watch the whole thing because it's really long. Let's see what's going on. It's in slow motion, so you've got that slow motion sound effect. So I believe this person on the person on the right is the this person here is the person that uploaded the video, I think. Takes a bit to get going. I have actually pre-watched this a little bit. Could have done with this in full speed, to be honest. What? Now, I believe this section is talking about gono-sen, right? So this question is about Mitsuno-sen. So kuru, so it means the opponent's coming, then he defends, and kaisu returns. Okay, returns a strike, that means. Okay, so look, right, so let's go back. The question you're asking is about Mitsuno-sen. Mitsuno-sen is the 3 types of sen. Yeah, there's sen no sen, and go no sen, or sometimes sen no sen, sen no sen, and go no sen. They're the 3 usual ways of phrasing the same thing, and it's about when your attack happens. This particular aspect that you just mentioned was about go no sen, and it's showing the opponent stepping in first, starting first, attacking, and then the person who uploaded the video defends and does the kaishimen, so kote kaishimen. This is gono-sen because it happens after they begin the attack, right? Sen no sen, sen no sen, those, or whatever, sen no sen, those are other aspects where you hit before they move and stuff like that. Now look, I don't think I'm going to do an analysis video on this, right? I'll tell you for why, right? This, I watched a little bit of this video, including part where the person who uploaded it was sort of giving an introduction to it and stuff like that. This is a video, from what I understand from the snippets that I saw, This has been uploaded by someone who's currently 7th Dan, is preparing for Hachidan. And the video is about how they are preparing for Hachidan. So it's a bit above my pay grade, to be honest. Now, it's not that I don't think it's useful or helpful, but it's a little bit, you know, having watched it myself, it's a little bit, I wouldn't say it's beyond me, it's not, but I get what it's on about and stuff. But I'm not quite there myself yet at concentrating on that aspect, the aspect of it that this particular YouTube uploader is doing. So essentially, you know, what it's talking about is, so this it's a grey area as well. This whole sort of sen no sen and, you know, sen no sen. Essentially, like sen or sen no sen is like when you hit, you take the initiative and hit, all right? And then sen no sen is like when you strike even before that point. All right, it's pretty deep, and it's not a question I'm really gonna go into on the spot. I need, if I do a video about it, I need to research it properly and get all the proper, literature together from the ZNKR and elsewhere as well, so that I can sort of give a proper analysis in a presentable way rather than just sort of waxing lyrical off the top of my head. So I'm not going to give you a brilliant answer for this, unfortunately, after saying earlier that I should have the answers. But this is a particularly difficult concept that isn't your run-of-the-mill, you know, the answer is this. Because whatever I think the answer is, someone else thinks it's different. Because that's the nature of this kind of concept, all right? Whatever I think, or how I think Mitsuno Sen is interpreted, there's someone else or lots of other people that think different, all right? So all I can do is give my interpretation, which I haven't fully formed as of yet, if I'm totally honest, all right? I'm still working on it. Good question, though. Next one. Hello, I have a question about the door fit. Many times I've seen Japanese kendo players wearing doors that seemed oversized and not touching their hips and sides at all, only their bellies. I felt like the purpose of this was to decrease the impact of any hit and assumed that it was the correct fit for everybody. I also really liked the look. But then I got a couple of custom-made doors from KendoStar made to my measurements, and I was surprised neither of them fits this way. The sides generally rest on my hips, much so that after a few years of use, they start rubbing holes on the tare. Is this supposed to happen? If not, what's wrong? Thanks. So there shouldn't be a massive gap at the sides. The door, especially synthetic door, can be really easily adjusted in size. Let me get up some examples so you can see anyway. Okay, so this is the All Japan Kendo Federation's like Flickr page there, where they put the photos from their tournaments. Here's a good picture. This is from the latest 8th Dan tournament. I'm not sure you can see that well. This is how the door should fit. All right, so it's literally like between the inside of the door and the side of your body is like 1 or 2 fingers width. It shouldn't be like massive. That's a proper misnomer. You can see on all of these that they fit quite close to the body. That's correct. If it's big, then when it gets hit, it goes like this. It's not good for the door, and it doesn't absorb the impact well either. But you can see clearly these are the, you know, and you could go to another page and find a similar thing, I'm sure. Now, obviously, everybody's body type is different, so there's obviously going to be some people where it doesn't necessarily fit exactly like that, but this is generally the way in which you know, we look for the the door to fit. See if I can find the All Japan Championships, for example. You'll probably find something very similar there. Yeah, you do. Yeah, so you'll see that if we can get to the match pictures, you'll see, you can get one of the actual shiai. It's pretty much, yeah, just 1 or 2 fingers width. Yeah, it's a close fit. It doesn't want to be this sort of big fit. You can see that there, right? You can see that there. Okay, same here. It's not a big fit. Now, it doesn't mean it should be literally rubbing against your tare, right? And if that's the case, then what you can do is you can very easily widen it. Now, let's have a look at that. Okay, so this is weird. This is like Kendoception, but anyway, this is a video that I've put out a couple of years ago as a Kendo rant called "Play/Do Kendo and Resizing the Door," and the sound's really bad in it, but I actually teach you in this how to resize the door. How to resize the door. It's very, very easy. Okay, it's very, very easy to resize it downwards, or I think I show you how to resize it upwards as well. That's how you resize it downwards, and then how to resize it upwards using an old bit of shinai. Yeah, it's very, very easy. And if it's a synthetic door, then it's super easy to do. It's not so easy with bamboo door. If you need to do it with bamboo door, you need to be much more careful. In fact, I'd probably speak to send us an email if you've got a bamboo door you need to do, and I'll tell you how to do that. But the synthetic door, they're really size adjustable, so it's super easy to change it. But as you can see from those photos, the correct fit of the door, it should be reasonably close. It doesn't want to be massive, so it's moving around like that. Okay. You might have seen Japanese kendo players wearing it that way. If they were like high school or university students, that's probably because they're not wearing their own boga, or at least not their own door. Usually they're using a door that belongs to the school. Right, next one. Who are your favourite kendoka and why? How about in 3 categories? Shiai, high grade sensei, and those who would love to have met. Probably those who are not with us any longer. Right, that's a good question. My favourite kendoka, I already mentioned Takanabe Susumu. I really like his kendo, and I find it really relatable. I really like to have kendo like his. I like Nishimura Hidehisa as well. I'm not as relatable, I guess, in terms of what have you, but I still think there's loads to learn from him. I think he's fantastic. Eiga Naoki sensei, of course. Miyazaki Masahiro sensei, of course. Other people are senseis that I know, and I don't like. I only tend to use names on here that are like famous players that are out in the public, like out in the public sphere. I don't necessarily like to name drop like senseis that aren't in that. So, but there are. I've got other senseis that I really, really admire and look up to. Shiai, high grade sensei, I don't differentiate those two, frankly. To be honest, there's high grade senseis that I think are really, really fantastic, even if they haven't got a particularly impressive Shiai career. Of course, there are those, definitely, I guess it's okay to say. Honda Sotaro Sensei, of course. He's one of my favorite people. He's been a massive influence to me throughout my kendo career since I was a young sapling, and of course Alex Bennett Sensei as well. It's amazing, super inspirational. In terms of those that I would love to have met, it's difficult because I'm in a super privileged position. I'm super privileged to say that I've met most of them. I don't mean that as like a brag, but it's like I can't necessarily think Like even Chiba Sensei, Chiba Sensei was awesome and again super influential to me. I really loved him, but yeah, I was really lucky to train with him. So yeah. I mean, it's corny to say like Mochida Sensei or something like that, like one of the 10th dans or something like that, but I don't know, like even if I met him, I don't know what I'd say or ask or something like that, because from a different time. You know what I mean? It's like, it's not that they're less impressive or anything like that, of course not, absolutely not. But at the same time, it's not always, I don't know, of course I'd love to meet one of those senseis if I'd be able to, you know, have met like one of those 10th dans. That'd be pretty awesome, I guess. I like to, yeah, can't think of anyone else. So, yeah. I tell you what, I'd like to have met Kawazoe Sensei. Kawazoe Sensei, he was a very excellent Jodan player, rivaled Chiba Sensei back in the day, and was unfortunately killed in a train accident whilst he was still relatively young. So he would have been a cool one to have talked to, I think. I have a stupid question that I'm too embarrassed to ask my teachers. No problem. My Tsuba is an ugly brownish yellow colour. Am I allowed to paint it, or is there some kind of Kendo Federation rule against it? And if I do, does it have to be a plain colour, or am I free to add a pattern? If it matters, I'm in Japan. Don't add a pattern. Don't add a pattern. I don't think you should paint it either, to be honest. You're best, if you're in Japan, just either order it off KendoStar, which would be the best for me, but I understand it's not necessarily the best for you. Just go to local burger shop and buy a different coloured Tsuba. They're like, you know, like even just a plastic one, like the plain plastic ones, they've got them in a couple of different colours for maybe like 200 yen less. So do that. Don't start painting it, because if the paint starts chipping off or rubbing off or something like that, it'll be a mess. So don't do that. Okay. Hi Andy, hope you're well. I saw that you'll be hosting a seminar focused on Shiai, which got me thinking about Shiai prep. What do you think is commonly missed by people when preparing for Shiai? Thanks in advance. That's a good question. Mitori Yeiko, number 1. Mitori Yeiko. Number 2, probably proper mental preparation, something I missed out too much, I think. And number 3 is dietary preparation. I think it's, you know, the problem is, right, is when you're mainly doing Shiai, you're mainly young, right? And you don't, you know, it's easy to be careless about things like your diet, because like you can eat loads and still not get fat. But it's not necessarily the best still for your body, or the way that your body efficiently produces energy. I'm no expert on anything like that, but I think that's probably something that I wish I'd taken care of more when I was younger, and preparing for Shiai. I was just taking care of my body a bit more, and making sure that it was in good condition on the day of the game. So, you know, probably that sort of thing. Next one. Thanks. For a long time, I've struggled with Fumikomiyashi. It took me months to get my body to learn a reasonable version of it, and it's still a work in progress. However, I've recently learned of Tobikomiyashi, and as I looked into it more, it seems that that's actually what I've been practicing this whole time. Then Fumikomiyashi was actually a bit more attainable than I realised. My question is, are there any serious differences that you can speak to? Maybe some teaching points to help other people along the way, or if the difference even matters much at these beginning levels. Thanks for all your help and for taking the time with this long question. No problem. So I've never heard the term from the ZNKR, Tobikomiyashi, all right? I've never heard that. It's usually like Tobikomi Waza. Tobikomi is like, Tobikomi means to like leap forward sort of thing, and it's not wrong. I'm not a massive fan personally of the term Fumikomiyashi, because I think Fumikomi kind of puts emphasis on the stamp when it's really the leap that's the important part. So what's really kind of important is, and this is something I've talked about before as well, is when you're learning to do fumikomi, when you're learning to launch your body forward, it's not so much the fumikomi, but the fumikiri, which is from the left leg, how your left leg pushes and launches you forward, launches your body forward to make the strike. And the stamp happens more because you're using your right leg to bring up your left and carry on driving forward. It's not a byproduct, but it's not the stamp that's important, it's the leap forward that's important. So I guess that's where the term, maybe tobikomi tobikomiyasi is another word for that fumikiri, which I think is the really key point. And I do think that that's what people need to concentrate more on, rather than stamping down on the floor, but leaping forward from the left leg. Okay, that's it. Bit of a long one today. We got through all those fantastic questions. Thank you for joining me. I hope you enjoyed it. We'll keep doing our best to improve things here. Don't forget, the like, share, subscribe, shop at KendoStar, and I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye.